Hi, this is Denise Matthew. Hope you're doing well. Back again for another week of the transits. So we have a few things happening this week. A full moon happening on July 23rd. And we also have Jupiter going to be making a big move into another gate. It's going to be moving from the gate 55 into the gate 30 because it's going retrograde. So it's going over the energy that it's already gone over again. What it's going to do is reactivate some themes that we've had earlier in the year. And I'll talk about that as we go through the transits. Other than that, I'm still doing the mandala of life and I'm doing the community page updates with all the transits. And so if you want to find it out by the written way, you can do that. I also have videos for all the gates of the mandala, and we are officially halfway through, which is really nice to get there, which is a nice place to be because this just started off like something that we were going to experience, and we're already halfway there. So let's see how it goes for the next half. And other than that, last week, I added something called just the least you need to know for the transits for the week. If you're interested in that, I'm going to continue on with that because people seem to like it. You can check that out. And if you want more details, I'll always still be doing the full transit report that I'm doing right now. And other than that, let's get into the transits. The full moon will be happening on July 23rd, and it's going to be happening between the gate 56 line 6 and the gate 60 line 6. Well, the moon will actually be in the gate 60 because it'll be in the same energy as the earth. And there's going to be an opposition, as all full moons are. So in other words, the energy is opposing each other or opposite each other. What that means is that we're going to have the influence of the sun that's incorporated within this energy. And it will be again between the gate 60 and the gate 56. We had a lot of experience with the gate 60 in a lot of 2020 and some of 2021, and we will see the gate 60 again when Pluto goes there later in the year. Right now, Pluto has retrograded into the gate 61, so it's a different feel right now. And we know that a full moon is a culmination, or it is sort of a bringing something to a close sometimes, or just bring it to the next level after we've kind of put a lot of energy and work into it. The gate 60 for a full moon really talks to the idea of this limitation that we have been living with. And when we get to the line 6, we know that it is sort of the role model, you could say, of the energy. Or in other words, we've gone through all the different energies, the different lines of the gate 60. We've learned what it meant, and now we are ready to move on to the next energy. And the next energy here is the gate 41, which is the beginning of a brand new cycle and a beginning of the human design year, if we were starting a brand new year. So what that's telling us is there is a culmination of some sort that we are reaching at this point. And it's almost like a closing out, I would say almost of a closing out to a degree of a lot of the experience that we've had with the limitation of the gate 60. And we will, of course, over the next couple of years, we will still have Pluto going through the gate 60. So we're still going to be playing with those themes or working with those themes. But last year we had Jupiter and Saturn within the gate 60. So that was a different energy where they're basically, Saturn is always going to be about more limitations, more restrictions. It would bring that energy to the gate when it was there. And Jupiter is about expanding, and it could be expanding limitations, those types of things. This feels like we're closing out one cycle and then beginning a brand new cycle. You're looking at the surroundings around you. You're looking at the limitations that life has given you, and you're saying, I can work with this. Even though I might feel limited, or it may look like a limitation, I can work within this. And as soon as you start to surrender to what is, surrender to what the universe has given you, that's usually when you get an upgrade or an ability to move to the next level. So this is what this is talking to. And this also talks to the idea that if anybody has a hanging gate 3 or something like that, you could be getting some mutative downloads. Maybe we're getting more clarity about mutative ideas or new ideas that came to us before when we had so much energy with the Jupiter and Saturn and even Pluto going through. Maybe we had some of these ideas of new things we wanted to bring into the world and we didn't have the clarity. So now this is bringing in the energy to saying, okay, here's the clarity that you need. Let's see if we can start to bring it into something that is real in the real world. If we hone in on the gate 60 line 6, the name is called rigidity. What that talks to is this concept that I think if you look at the perspective of people who are extreme in certain things, they could be an extreme in exercise, diet, something like that. So they feel that if they are extremely rigid in what they do with their life, that they will get the rewards that they're due because they're super strict. And they feel that that's the way it is. It's this super rigid idea, only one way. This is the way it has to be. You're limited in a million ways. Now, for some people, that's okay. But the reality is most of us can only live within limitations for so long. And if you think about this idea of a string on a guitar or something, if it's too tight, it will snap. And if it's too loose, it won't play a nice song. And what that means is that we need to have some balance, some middle way of where we're going with our lives, giving yourself some leeway to live your life, giving yourself some freedom, but also understanding that limitation will serve you as well in certain things in life. So that's what it's saying. Try and find the balance between being too limited and also between being too free and relaxed. When you find the balance between the two, then that's where you get the beautiful music in your life, and your life can get the rewards that you want. And it's about life experiences that we're having. So if we look between the concept of the gate 56, this is all about life experiences and what we're experiencing in life, and also wanting to have new experiences and to want to get out there and do a bunch of things, and maybe not necessarily be able to do that because life is not open to that for you. So that is feeling limited because you can't get out and do all those things you want to do. And that what this says is that if you are too rigid, and then maybe you're saving too much and you can never go on that big trip because it takes 20 years before you can actually afford to go on that trip, but instead you save for a trip that is not the trip, but it's a smaller trip, and yet you can do it within a year. So maybe you should go on the smaller trip, and eventually maybe you can actually get that bigger trip in the future. But if you're always limiting yourself and you're saying, I can't do this and I can't do that, life becomes tough and it's no fun. There's no fulfillment in life. We have enough struggles in life as it is. We have to surrender to the limitations that we have in our life. But the other perspective is to also be in a position where you're actually living life as well. So this is saying that a lot of people are maybe being too strict, maybe being too rigid about how they're lit. So it's basically the biggest theme that we could get from this full moon is to really just try and be in the middle way, to surrender to the reality of your life, but also to understand that within the reality of your life, there is beauty that you can find. And there are things that you can do. You don't have to limit everything you do. We do have 3 planets that are exalted during this full moon. So it really does talk to the idea that this is going to be more positive than anything. Right now, the sun is in the gate 56, and the gate 56 is the storyteller. This is an energy of a teacher, or this is an energy of somebody who likes to share their life experiences. And within their life experience can be a moral, it can be some kind of idea, concept. This is connected to the gate 11. This is the 1156 channel. So if we imagine that the gate 11 is the ideas, the gate 56 is the voice that speaks the ideas or the concepts and even interweaves them amongst the stories so that we can actually learn something from it in an experiential way. This is you talking about things that you might have done. For the most part, it's your own life experience that you're telling to the world and you're showing to the world. And the other thing about this energy is that there can sometimes be this need to want to get the experiences. And this is also called the wanderer, which means that you could want these experiences. And the thing about this energy is this is energy to give away. It's not necessarily energy that we want to keep for ourselves. We want to give the stories away to people. We want to teach people through our stories, or maybe inspire them through our stories. In some way, somebody else's life has changed because of something they heard from us. And the key word with the storyteller or the gate 56 is I believe. Now, this I believe means that I believe this to be true, but it doesn't have to be true. This is not the logic of the gate 62 that we talked about last week. The logic of the gate 62 says this is a formula, this is a pattern, this is a truth. Whereas the gate 56 says this is my experience, this is how I saw it, this is how I look through the experience, and this is the experience through my eyes. And this whole channel, the 1156, is actually connected to the left eye. So Ra Uru said that if the I could speak, that the gate 56 would actually be talking for the gate 11. So that's what it's all about. This energy of my experience. I've had this and I'm going to share it with you. So I looked at this energy, and when I was sort of studying it and everything, and I thought, it's difficult to actually show this energy to the world. I can tell you about a storyteller and those types of things. And in the old days, it would have been quite easy to find a storyteller who sat in a fireside and told people about the stories of experience in life and those types of things. And nowadays, it's more difficult to actually have that image of a storyteller on the fireside. But what you can see is, for instance, Anthony Bourdain, and he had this show called Parts Unknown. A lot of people probably know that show. It was about him traveling around the world and meeting different cultures, different foods, and different ways of living and those types of things. So basically what he did was he would experience life and he would eat some interesting things that nobody had ever seen before. Every place he went, his experiences were documented. And he actually had the Gate 56 defined by Uranus, which was an unusual experience, or an experience that was not of the norm, you could say. And that was his whole life. He also had the 3536, which is an experiential energy, which channel of transitoriness, which means that it was all about the new experience. And after he had the new experience, he would go on to something new. So this energy of the Gate 56 is very evident when you look at the world he lived in and the actual show that he was in. Another person that you could see this energy through is a YouTuber called Jonah Jinton, and she lives in Sweden, and she documents her life and the hardships and the joy and the beauty of all the things that she has in her life. You could say very awe-inspiring, beautiful scenery, and she's got a lot of beauty in the stories, and also the beauty in just her life. And she doesn't really pretend or have a script or anything like that. So you could check either of those people out. And if you do, then you can get this feeling of exactly what this storyteller is all about. And the thing about the Gate 56 is we might hear a lot of people talking about their experiences, their stories, the types of things like that, or ideas or concepts. And it's interesting how Anthony Bourdain is in the news and the sun is transiting the Gate 56. So it's interesting how that is kind of all lining up. So we might see more of these people talking about their stories in interesting ways of expressing themselves. On July 25th, we have the sun moving into the Gate 31, and the Gate 31 is influential leadership. Again, this is another throat gate, and we're moving away from abstract energy, which is about experiences, where we just begin and we decide. We don't really have a plan or a pattern of what we're going to follow. We just basically jump in and see how it goes. And with the Gate 31 or with anything logical, we usually have some game plan, some idea, some way that we want to go. And that's the type of leadership that we're talking about when we're talking about the Gate 31. This is a democratic leadership. And one of the things that we can say about the Gate 31 is this is a natural leadership. And it can also be this idea that people don't necessarily, it's not like a Gate 45 where it's a tribal leadership where you just have this royal ambiance about you. The Gate 31 is you've proven yourself to be somebody who can take a leadership role. And so you wouldn't be like people would just be just immediately saying that, oh yeah, that person's a leader. You are proving yourself to be a leader. And that is really like with any logical energy, we have to prove ourselves within the logical energy, because we know that within the collective, we have patterns that we live by, patterns that we follow, patterns that are part of the fabric of our lives. And we don't want people to just randomly come in and change those patterns. And so we don't like people to come in without being criticized, you could say, because that's a Gate 18. That could be the criticism of the pattern. Or we could also just say, try to point out mistakes that may not necessarily work, and the pattern may not work because of that. And that's the whole thing. You have to prove yourself as a leader, as you do with any logical energy. You have to prove that this energy is of value. This energy is going to be supported by it being able to perpetuate a pattern in the future, or something that we can actually rely on. Without a pattern in the world around us in the collective, it would be about chaos, because we wouldn't have that ability to count on the things in our lives that we know will always be there, or we expect to be there when we want them, that the stores will be open, that you can go and get groceries or food, or you can do those types of things. Now, there are places in the world that don't have that luxury, that they don't have the luxury of having the stores open or a bus that they can take and they know it's always going to come. They live in an environment that there is no pattern. And with them, it would be more of an experience of every day. How am I going to get through this experience? I start this experience and I move forward. And that's a true difference between logical and experiential energy. So this is just looking at the energy of leadership, and that's going to be the neutrinos. That's the solar energy that we're going to be experiencing. And we could see democratic leaders in the news, and we could see people who are leading in a democratic way, but we also have to remember that you're only as strong as the people that you lead, and that's the most important thing with this energy. You are nothing without the people that you lead. If you are not supporting the people in the way that they're supporting you, then it's all going to fall apart. And that's one of the most important things. So we might see this way of people being good leaders and people not necessarily being the best version of a leader. And you could be in a position where maybe you are taking on some sort of a leadership role, something new that you hadn't done before, and you're learning that you have to really be that leader that is looking at all of the people that you're leading, looking at the people who are your followers, and understanding that there will be some people who need more support than others, and seeing everybody as an individual, and that everybody is important in the whole leadership role. Right now, the Earth is in the gate 60. And like I said, we talked a lot about that. So if we look at the Earth being in the gate 60, we're talking about this idea of grounding in something. So we're grounding in limitation. We're grounding in this ability to surrender to what is, grounding into this ability to find the balance within the energy. Where can we find our comfort zone within the energy of potentially feeling limited? What is happening now is that we do have some places in the world, and many places, in fact, that are actually going back into lockdown. And we have others that are opening up. So we do have this limitation, but we also have people that are coming out of limitation. So we have both sides of the coin. There is balance within the world of limitation. So if we know that the sun and the earth work together because the two energies are always going to be intertwined because they're always opposite each other, we could look at the sun energy of the gate 56 and the stories and experiences of our lives, and how we are telling other people about stories that we've gone through. So for instance, if we're talking about lockdown, we could have some people saying, well, we were in lockdown and this is how it went and this is what we did. And you're grounding people in this experience of being in a limited energy. But surrendering to what is the key, because eventually everything changes. We know that is part of life. There is nothing that is permanent. It's always changing. When we look at the gate 60, another thing to remember is that this is pressure. So right now, within the body graph, we have the pressure of the gate 61, which is the pressure to figure things out, to find out the hidden knowledge, the occult, the things that we don't know. And we also have the pressure in the gate 60, which is this concept of feeling like there's limits or you can't actually move forward. But also, they're both mutative energies. They're both energies that talk to bringing something new into the world. So we also know that whenever we have energy that is mutative, it's also individual, and there's potential for melancholy. So we feel pressure and potential for melancholy. So right with this energy and sort of this build up to this energy before we get to the full moon where it finishes off and we start to feel some sort of a breakthrough, because we get to the gate 41 where we have potential to start to dream about something new. But until that, we have a lot of pressure to figure things out, and also pressure to get out of the limitations. But again, if you can remember that this is all part of the plan, that it will move forward and things will shift as they always do. Understand that when you feel that this melancholy is there, to understand this is part of it, to know that it's okay, there's nothing wrong with you, and it will move on. Just like every type of thing in our lives, every emotion that we have, it will move on. This is a potential for you to be creative. Anytime we have individual energy, we have a potential to be creative in our lives, to actually bring something into being, just by allowing ourselves to flow with the energy, as opposed to stopping the energy or trying to, you could say, internalize the energy or pretend that it's not there, which a lot of people will do. They'll not allow that feeling of melancholy or the blues to actually be part of their life, because a lot of times in the world we have this you have to be happy kind of mentality. And when you have the Pluto in the gate 61, which is really talking about a potential for paranoia, and it's trying to transform that energy so that it's a healthier version of those questions that spin in our mind and we can't seem to let go of them. I want to know the answer to this, and I can't necessarily let go of it until I know the answer. But what if that answer will never come? How can I work with that energy? And that is what Pluto is trying to tell us. How can we work with that energy that says that I may not necessarily get the answer? How can I be okay with that? So those are the pressures and the melancholies that we potentially could feel this week. But again, it is about expressing yourself externally, creating something because it makes you feel good, because you want to do it, whatever that is. Creativity can be going out and playing sports. It could be painting. It could be singing. It could be listening to nice music. It could be anything that makes you feel good. And when you're doing that, you're supporting yourself in your journey through this. And then you know that eventually it does let up and it does move. And we'll get into July 25th, we'll get into the gate 41. And that is where we start grounding into this gate 41, get grounding into this fantasy, grounding into this beginning, because it is an initiating codon. The other thing that we could think about when we're talking about the gate 41 is that we had a big conjunction. They called it the grand conjunction, and it was like the end of December of 2020. And it was a potential time to start to manifest your dreams, or to start to put something into play, to dream that impossible dream. Also start to put some ingredients together to say, how can I bring this into my reality? In my heart, this is what I want to do. How can I bring it into play? So what's happening now when we have the earth going into the gate 41, we have this kind of like a checkpoint where we're saying, what have I done to actually concretize or to ground into this energy of the gate 41, this new thing that I want to bring into play, this new dream, this thing that I've wanted, this fantasy? What have I actually done? What are the steps that I've laid out to get this experience to start to happen? Because we know that it takes time to get to the throat where we can have some manifestation, because it is super low in the body graph. So what that's saying is, where have we gone? What have we done? And how is our dream coming into play? How are we doing with the steps to get where we want to go? How are we doing to manifest it into something, to move it to the next step, we could say? And the interesting thing is that we will have a full channel, which will give an emotional component to this energy as well. Because on July 27th, we have the Jupiter, like I said, is going to be moving back into the gate 30. So this is going to bring us a full channel, the 4130, which is a full channel, and it's an emotional channel that talks to this idea of wanting to bring this fantasy into reality. And so you're having some level of an emotional component to it. And you can't really see it here, but this is where the energy would be. So we see that it's at the root center and also the emotional center, which means that there's going to be a pressurized emotion, a pressure to get this to actually move forward, to see where you're going with this. So you're emotionally connected to the energy of, where's my dream going? How has it actually manifested? How has it progressed? And then you have this ability to kind of reconfigure it, to look and see where you need some extra work and where you may have done a really great job, to look at the whole plan and to start again, to begin again, build on the foundation wherever you are right now. So it's an ability for you to start to build again towards that dream. Maybe you forgot about this dream. Maybe it was something that was really important to you a couple months ago, but now it's not as important, or maybe it's more important than it was before, or maybe you have a resurgence of the energy that you want to make this happen, that maybe you got pulled away from it and life got in the way, and this is you being reminded that, yes, I do have something that's bigger than me that I really want to bring into the world that matters to me. So that's what this energy is about. And like I said, you have this emotional component to it as well. The other thing about this energy is this energy can be connected to sex and enjoying the pleasures of life and those types of things. So we might see more of that in the world stage, like people wanting to experience things that they haven't experienced. Maybe you've been out of the dating scene for a long time, and you just want to get back in and start to have those experiences again. We do right now have Mercury in the gate 39, but because we're moving so fast, and I talked a lot about it last week, I'm just going to move on to the gate 53. Now, remember that we do have the 3955 emotional channel for a couple more days, and that will be finishing up on the 21st when we have Mercury moving into the gate 53. And then we won't have any emotional channels until the 27th, like I said, and that'll be the 4130, which is the collective emotional channel. With the gate 53, we do have, Mercury is always talking about communication. It's talking about the things that we want to speak about in the world. We did have the sun go through the gate 53 a couple of weeks ago, and it's just coming back and saying, okay, so you started with the new beginnings, and now you might be talking to people about the new beginnings that you've done, or you're communicating with other people about the things that you're doing. So, in other words, you started a new job and you're telling people, oh, I didn't want to tell anybody in the beginning because I didn't really know how it was going to progress. But here I'm talking about this new beginning that I had. And a lot of people are talking about the things that they're starting now. So we might hear a lot about what's happening new for people and that we're starting new things that are happening. And we could, as far as new beginnings go, we could still be having new beginnings in communication. So in other words, you could be writing a new book. You could do anything with communication. You could be doing a podcast. You could be starting a new podcast. You could be doing anything like a blog or videos or anything where you're actually communicating with other people. You could be starting that. And maybe you had the concept when the sun went through the gate 53, and now you're actually progressing into the next step where you're actually starting to bring it into the real world. On July 24th, we have Mercury going to the gate 62. And like I said in the beginning, Mercury doesn't really like to be in the gate 62. Mercury is a very fast planet and it likes to move and go from one concept to the other. It doesn't like to stick around. And so when you put it in the gate 62, the gate 62 is like, we have to wash, rinse, and repeat, do it over and over and over again. And Mercury doesn't like that. So it's not exalted in several lines in the gate 62 because it gets frustrated. I don't want to stick with this concept. I want something new. I don't want to continue to do this. So on that perspective, that we could have some people just getting frustrated with having to go over the details. They want to just go and jump in and do what they want to do, or just kind of go to the next thing. But yet this is pulling you back and saying, okay, no, you have to figure things out. If you want anything to show up in the world in a pattern or predict the future of where you want to walk in your life, then you have to come up with some way of doing it in a way where you're going to have supported energy to actually say this is a real thing and that it deserves to go to the next step, because we know that the gate 62 is connected to the gate 17, which is all about opinions. So this is supporting your opinions. And this could be people saying, I don't feel like getting the details for my opinions. I'm just going to tell you what I think, and you don't like it. That's your problem. That's not mine. So we could have a lot of opinionated behavior talking, people not wanting to get the details, being restless with having to do the same monotonous work over and over again. And the other perspective is it's all about practicality. So we could have Mercury talking about practical ways, new ways, and ways that we can sort of cut through the fog of how we're doing things. And so it makes it clearer. So it's easier for us to actually get forward in life or those types of things. July 26th, like I said, moving very fast. We have Mercury going to the gate 56. And so you'll notice that Mercury is actually catching up to the sun. And eventually Mercury will pass the sun as the weeks go on, which is not very far. When we talk about Mercury, we talk about the storyteller. This is like the expression of those experiences verbally. This is what we might hear in the news. This is what we might hear in media. We might see more people starting to express their experiences, talk about their experience. We do have a lot of reality TV shows and those types of things. And this is kind of like a lot of, I mean, before they were scripted, I don't know if they're scripted so much now. I don't actually watch them, but a lot of the reality TV shows, I think, a lot of them are scripted now. But when we had them in the beginning, when they were unscripted, like you had something like Survivor, where you actually watch people try and build fires or try and live or survive, or basically Survivor, right? So it's this whole reality TV show, or like I said, Anthony Bourdain and also Jonah Jinton and other people who express their life, and through their life, they're just basically telling you the stories of their life. They could be just telling you the stories of what happened to them. There may not be anything more than the story. It could be just a really nice story that kind of gives you something to entertain you. And that's what this is talking about, this idea that we can kind of get immersed within the stories of life and kind of be entertained by them as well. Right now, we have Venus in the gate 29. I talked a lot about that last week, so if you want to check that out for more details. But the one thing we could say about Venus being in the gate 29 is that it may not necessarily always be happening in the gate 29. And the reason why is because this requires a tremendous amount of persistence. And so Mars is happy here. Mars is willing to go that extra step because it feels like it's going to get results. It's like, let's push forward. Let's continue on. Let's get to the end of this mission, you could say, with Mars, because it is the general. Then with Venus, it's like, I want to have pleasures in life and I want to be able to relax. I want to be able to get the good things. And I don't necessarily want to continue on with this. I don't have the energy to continue on with this. This is being in the right place at the right time. But with Venus, you're not necessarily going to be in the right place at the right time because you don't actually want to continue on. You maybe you want to bend to the flow of somebody else. It's also being in the flow of your own life, of being in the flow of who you are, of being in your personal flow. And you're maybe you just kind of there's potential for you just to bend to other people's flow and just say yes all the time. Oh yeah, okay, you want me to do that? Okay, no problem, I'll do that. Because this is a gate of yes as much as it is of anything. And this is overcommitment because you're always saying yes to things, even though maybe you don't have the energy, maybe you don't have the ability to do it because there's only so many hours in the day. With Mars coming into the gate 29, we do have that higher, you could say the higher octave of the energy where Mars is saying yes to the right things. It's saying, I'm going to wait till the right energy for me shows up and I will say yes to that energy only. I'm not going to just say yes. And if I'm not sure about something, I'm going to wait because it's important for me to wait because ultimately this is my life and I'm meant to take care of my needs and what I need to have in life. And if I'm always giving myself to everybody and committing myself to everybody, what energy do I have left for myself? And this is about keeping the energy for yourself. When Venus wants to give away all this energy and always say yes and just try and be a people pleaser, Mars says, no, I'm going to please myself. And if it works for me, I'll do that. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to. And that's really the energy we need because ultimately what happens is we're always going to be giving so much that we're like a car driving around and empty, and yet we're still driving people around, but we don't even have any gas to get us home. So that's what this really needs to speak to this idea. And again, we're finishing up with it, saying yes to the things that are going to serve you best ultimately. The Venus moves into the gate 59 on July 22nd. And this could be a little bit of romance. This could be that connection of being with people, breaking barriers down, wanting to spend some time, some romantic escapades, we could say, meeting new people, new relationships, and maybe even enjoying some bonding moments where you're just bonding with somebody. This could be working with a team that you actually work with at your work, and or you're a team you're working with on a project, and suddenly you just feel like you start to get to know each other better, and you start to break down the barriers that maybe you didn't know were there, but they actually are there, and you start to see that person for somebody else, somebody who you can relate to. This is tribal energy, so it means that this is about your people and that kind of connection with these kind of people are my people and I like them because they like the same things as me, and because of that I want to support them and I want to break the barriers between us and to have a deeper and more intimate connection with somebody else. So like I said, this could be pure romance where you're out dating and meeting new people. This is not necessarily the energy that's going to stick around forever, but it is an energy that will be enjoyable and you can have a lot of fun with it. And there is potential always to have something that sticks around longer, but Venus is always going to be about having good times and relaxing and just kind of just if you can just have fun with the energy and not really look at the long term of it, you could actually really have a good week with that perspective. Mars is in the gate 4 right now, and we talked a lot about that last week. And it's just about trying to figure out the answers, trying to figure out the path. This is really, talking to this idea of logical energy. This is talking about this idea of how can we get things that are going to get us into a better pattern and get us back online in life. And that sort of might be the focus and the impetus that we're talking about. And then on July 21st, we do have Mars moving into the gate 29. And I just talked a lot about that. So it seems like it'll be a week where we're actually starting to look at what we need in our lives. We're having that energy. We're having that push. We're having that drive to say, I am important. This is what I need. And I'm not going to just say yes to anything because it's not in my best interest. So those are good energies to have for the week from that perspective. And that's it for the transits. I hope you enjoyed them, and I'll be back again next week. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye for now.